I was close to the podium when I heard the sharp scrape of a chair against metal, loud enough to slice the ceremony in half. The sound echoed through the University of North Carolina's packed auditorium like someone had dropped a glass. I knew instantly who it was, even before her voice followed. My sister Marissa shot to her feet and pointed at me like she'd been waiting her whole life for a spotlight. She cheated her way through college. Clear. Confident. Calculated. Not a whisper. Not a stumble. Just a public execution delivered with perfect projection, loud enough to send a wave of gasps rolling through the rows of families and faculty. The entire auditorium stared, hundreds of eyes pivoting toward me, some wide, some curious, some confused. I didn't turn around. I didn't spare Marissa a single glance. I kept walking, holding together 4 years of work, exhaustion, and scraped together courage with nothing but posture and breath. My parents froze in the front row. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad shook his head in disbelief. But Marissa, she stood tall, chin raised, ready to burn the day down. Before I tell you what happened when I reached that stage, before I tell you what I whispered to the dean that made him smile, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? And if you were me that day, what would you have done? I didn't grow up expecting my sister to be the one detonating bombs in my life. If anything, I spent most of my childhood chasing her shadow, hoping some of her brightness would spill onto me. Marissa was the star. Louder, prettier, effortlessly charismatic. At family dinners in Charlotte, all conversations curled toward her like she was a fire in the center of the room. I sat beside her, nodding, laughing softly, learning the skill of being small. But the balance shifted when I changed. It happened slowly, junior year of high school, when my grades inched past hers. When teachers started praising me more. When a recommendation letter for a summer neuroscience program arrived with my name on it. Marissa smiled at me that day, but it was too tight, too sharp, like sweetness left out too long. I tried to ignore it. College stretched the distance even more. I moved into a tiny dorm on campus my freshman year with a mini fridge and 2 suitcases. Marissa stayed home after quitting her master's program. She said she needed a mental reset, but the truth was she'd quit most things she couldn't immediately excel at. I didn't think it was a competition. I didn't know she did. The cracks started small. A missing portion from my scholarship refund sophomore year. The financial aid office claimed a processing adjustment. I didn't push it, it was late in the semester, and I was too buried in labs and electives to care. Then came the odd emails. A plagiarism inquiry from Professor Easton for a submitted essay I'd never written. A cancelled advising appointment I had been counting on. A tutoring accusation from a student I didn't even know. They were scattered, small enough I convinced myself they were random mistakes. Students get mixed up all the time, right? But the cracks widened. By my senior year, people in my department had started looking at me with subtle hesitation. A girl in my research cohort stopped sitting near me. A TA seemed oddly watchful around me. Even my best friend and roommate, Piper, noticed the tension before I admitted anything. "You're checking your email like you're waiting for a bomb to drop," she whispered one night in our cramped apartment. She wasn't wrong, except I wasn't waiting for the next bomb. I was waiting for the pattern. But I refused to believe it was Marissa. This was the girl who used to share her snacks with me at recess, who carried me home when I sprained my ankle in 5th grade, who brushed my hair before church. This couldn't be her. I thought hope made me strong. It didn't. It made me blind. The turning point came the night my campus account locked me out. I sat at the kitchen table staring at my laptop screen as the message blinked. Account suspended. Multiple suspicious logins. Piper leaned over my shoulder. Camille. Who would even do that? I didn't have an answer. But someone kept dimming the lights of my life. Not enough to plunge me into darkness, just enough to make me question my sanity. A week later, Professor Easton called me into her office. "We need to talk," she said gently. "Another report came through. Someone is alleging you submitted duplicated work again." I felt my stomach drop through the floor. "That's not possible," I whispered. "I don't believe it either," she said. "But I need you to prepare." Prepare for what? A war I didn't start. I walked out into the hallway and felt the air shift around me. Evan from my freshman cohort gave me an odd, assessing look. A girl from my lab group whispered to another, eyes darting toward me. I wasn't the girl who kept her head down anymore. I was the girl someone was whispering about. I couldn't breathe. 2 days later, the final blow hit. An email surfaced, apparently from me, sent to the department office canceling my capstone review meeting. It was perfect. Cruel. Intentional. The tone wasn't mine. The phrasing wasn't mine. The signature wasn't mine. But the consequences were. My entire graduation eligibility depended on that review. I sat in the half-dark of my apartment, scrolling through memories of Marissa on my phone. Her smiles, her little digs at family gatherings, the envy she hid beneath compliments, the bitterness she carried since dropping out. A cold truth slid into place. Someone wasn't just sabotaging my semester. Someone was choreographing my collapse. I drove home the next morning and found my dad in the garage tightening a loose hinge on an old cabinet. He looked up with a familiar smile. Warm, oblivious. "Hey, Cammy. Thought you had class today." "Dad, has Marissa said anything about me? About school?" He paused. The wrench in his hand stilled. "She's been on edge," he admitted quietly. "Said you always get everything." I told her she was being ridiculous. The look he gave me was uneasy, as if part of him already sensed the truth. I didn't say anything more. I didn't have to. Because the next day, I decided this wasn't going to be guesswork anymore. I reached out to a cybersecurity investigator named Lucas Trent, recommended by a friend who told me he can find footprints in digital dust. He listened without interrupting, really listened, while I laid out every missing payment, every strange accusation, every hacked login, every haunting coincidence. When I finished, he tapped his keyboard once. "If someone accessed your accounts, they left a trail," he said calmly. "People think they're smarter than the system. They never are." 3 days later, he called me back. "Camille," he said the moment I walked into his workspace. "It wasn't random." He rotated his laptop toward me. "These login patterns, they didn't come from university servers. They came from a home IP in Charlotte." My chest tightened. He clicked once more. "The exact same network where your parents live." My head fell forward. I didn't want him to say it. He said it anyway. "And every flagged login is linked to a device name starting with MW. That's not yours. Marissa Ward." He wasn't accusing her. He didn't have to. The data did it for him. There was more. The missing scholarship funds? Rerouted. Twice. To an account stamped with a familiar recovery phone number. The fake emails? Created from a mirrored address. 1 letter off mine. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't clerical error. This was a blueprint. A blueprint someone had been building for months. I left Lucas's office with my hands shaking. My future dangling by threads. Marissa had been slicing one by one. I sat in the parking lot staring at my steering wheel while my phone buzzed with texts from Piper. "You okay? You've been quiet. Please tell me you're safe." I couldn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I went home again, sat in my car outside my parents' house until my dad knocked on the window. "Camille," he said gently. "Talk to me." "Someone's been messing with my life," I whispered. "My accounts. My scholarship. My records." Well, who? His voice cracked on the last word. I don't know, I lied. Because saying her name would shatter him. Back at my apartment, I opened my laptop and began saving every screenshot, every timestamp, every shred Lucas uncovered. I organized them into folders labeled chronologically, each one a quiet record of betrayal. I contacted attorney Rachel Devereaux the next morning. Calm, sharp, unshakable. She reviewed the evidence and asked only one question. When do you want this to stop? When she can't hurt me anymore. Graduation was 2 weeks away. I gathered everything, printed logs, statements, scholarship audits, and sealed them in an envelope labeled A17. Then I tucked it inside the lining of my graduation gown. For the first time in months, I felt steady. 2 timelines carried me to that day. In one, I was a normal student, finishing finals, returning textbooks, practicing how to keep my cap from falling off. In the other, I was preparing for a quiet war Marissa didn't know she'd already lost. On graduation morning, I walked into the buzzing auditorium with my gown brushing the floor and the envelope taped against my waist. When I saw my family, my stomach twisted. Mom waved too brightly. Dad looked relieved and terrified at the same time. And Marissa. She wasn't dressed like someone attending. She was dressed like someone performing. Her white blazer. Her perfect makeup. Her posture. Sharp. Anticipatory. She came here to end me. I took my seat on the stage. The dean met my eyes and gave the smallest nod. He knew. The ceremony rolled on. Names, applause, flashes of camera light. My name was near the end. Plenty of time for her to explode. And she did. Right on cue. She cheated her way through college. Her voice tore through the room. People recoiled. Phones lifted. Even faculty froze. I didn't look at her. I only walked. And when I reached the dean, he handed me my diploma, steady as stone. I leaned in and whispered. It's under my seat. Envelope marked A17. He didn't look surprised. He just smiled and nodded. And that was the moment the balance of the room shifted. The moment the revenge began. The dean's smile didn't just calm me. It rearranged the energy of the entire auditorium. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a slow-moving current. Faculty shifted uncomfortably. Cameras lowered. Even the graduates around me paused, sensing that something about today wasn't what Marissa imagined when she stood up and hurled her accusation. I turned away from the podium and walked back to my seat, my diploma firm in my hand. My heart shouldn't have been steady. My throat shouldn't have been relaxed. But for the first time in months, the chaos wasn't swirling around me. It was swirling around her. Marissa stood frozen, the confidence draining from her like ink swirling down a drain. She hadn't expected calm. She hadn't expected silence. She certainly hadn't expected the dean to smile. But she should have. Because when someone builds a house of lies, all it takes is one open door for the wind to rip the walls apart. The ceremony stumbled forward, people trying, and failing, to pretend nothing had happened. But the air had shifted. Parents whispered behind hands. Faculty exchanged glances. The girl next to Marissa scooted her chair away. And Marissa. She sat down slowly, palms trembling, like she realized she had accidentally set fire to something far more flammable than she'd planned. The moment the ceremony ended, the dean approached me quietly. Camille, come with me. My parents stood up, confused, worried. Mom clutched her purse like she was preparing to bolt forward, but the dean gently raised a hand. It's all right. You may join us in a moment. I followed him into a small office behind the stage. Soft lighting, framed certificates, a single leather chair beside his desk. He gestured for me to sit. I didn't. My body was still humming with adrenaline. A moment later, The door opened again. Marissa walked in. Not willingly. She looked like she'd been summoned by a force she couldn't refuse. The dean gestured toward the opposite chair. She sat, arms folded, expression tight. Then the door opened a third time. Attorney Rachel Devereaux stepped in, holding a folder with my initials neatly written on the front. Marissa blinked. "Who is she?" "My attorney," I said calmly. "For what?" Her voice cracked, not in anger, but in confusion. Real confusion. Like she genuinely didn't understand why I wasn't crumbling beneath her accusation. Rachel set the folder on the table and opened it with the same precision she used when she built arguments in court. "For the past 8 months," she began, "you have accessed Camille Ward's university accounts from your parents' home network. You altered financial aid disbursements, cancelled required academic appointments, impersonated her via email, and interfered with her academic progression. All of this is documented." Marissa let out a shaky laugh. "That's ridiculous." "I didn't." Rachel clicked a remote. A small monitor on the wall lit up. IP logs. Timestamps. Device names. Email headers. All lined up, page by page, like a quiet parade of betrayal. "This is circumstantial," Marissa insisted, her voice rising. "Anyone could've." Rachel tapped another page. A screenshot of a bank transfer. The rerouted scholarship money. A recovery phone number highlighted in yellow. "My sister's." Marissa's breath caught. The dean folded his hands on the desk. "We were informed of concerns earlier this semester. At the time, we did not have enough evidence to take action. But after reviewing this packet, and after Camille approached us last week, we opened a preliminary investigation." Marissa turned to me, eyes wide, almost pleading. "You went behind my back." Behind her back. As if she hadn't spent months attacking mine. I didn't answer. Silence was honest enough. The dean continued, "Your outburst today forced us to escalate the timeline. An accusation of academic dishonesty during commencement is a serious matter. Given the evidence provided," he nodded toward the folder, "we are compelled to take disciplinary action. Against you." Marissa's jaw dropped open. "Against me? I don't even attend this school." "Exactly," Rachel replied. "Which makes the interference not just unethical, it makes it criminal." The color drained from her face. The dean leaned back. "Camille's diploma is valid. Her record is intact. And every falsified action against her has been traced back to your device. The university is prepared to pursue charges for fraudulent impersonation, targeted harassment, and academic interference." Marissa's breathing grew shallow. "You can't be serious. I'm her sister." Rachel closed the folder. "Family does not exempt someone from accountability." I watched her swallow hard, eyes darting between us like she was trying to escape a room without doors. For once, she wasn't the center of attention. She was the cause of a disaster she couldn't spin into sympathy. "Camille," the dean said, turning to me with genuine warmth. "You handled today with remarkable composure. I'm sorry your moment of celebration was interrupted. If you'd like, I can arrange private photos on stage so you can have a proper memory." "Thank you," I whispered. He smiled, nodded once to Rachel, and stepped out, leaving me staring at the person who tried to dismantle my life one click at a time. When the door closed, the room dropped into a heavy quiet. Marissa's voice finally broke the silence. "Why would you do this?" she whispered, not accusatory but lost. "Do what?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Expose me like this?" The question almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was unreal. Absurd. Like she genuinely couldn't understand why consequences existed. "You sabotaged my entire senior year," I said softly. You stole my money. You faked my emails. You tried to get me kicked out. And then you tried to humiliate me in front of everyone I've worked 4 years to make proud. I was angry, she snapped. You always get everything. The scholarships. The praise. The attention. Mom and Dad talk about you like you're the second coming. Do you know what it's like to be compared to you every second? Her voice wavered with a kind of desperation I had never heard, not even during childhood fights or teenage meltdowns. This was deeper, darker, more fragile. But fragility doesn't erase damage. I've never asked for any of that, I said quietly. I've never competed with you. That's the problem, she whispered. You don't have to compete. You just win. I let out a long breath. Not because I pitied her. Because I finally understood. She didn't want to beat me. She wanted to break me so the gap felt smaller. Rachel stood. Camille, I'll give you 2 options. I straightened. 1. We proceed with the charges. The evidence is overwhelming. The university will follow through. There will be legal consequences. Marissa's face crumpled. Or 2, Rachel continued. We negotiate terms outside the court. That means restitution for the rerouted funds, a written statement admitting misconduct, and a formal agreement preventing further interference in your academic or professional life. If she violates that agreement, charges proceed automatically. I didn't answer immediately. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't just punishment. It's clarity. It's choosing what lets you walk forward without carrying the weight of someone else's disaster. Slowly, I turned to Marissa. Her shoulders were shaking. Her eyes were red. Her hands gripped the arms of the chair like she was holding on to the last raft in a storm she created. Do you understand what you did to me? I asked quietly. She nodded once, barely. Do you understand that this could have cost me my degree? Another shaky nod. And do you understand that I'm choosing right now what kind of sister I want to be from this point forward? She broke. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But apologies don't erase patterns. They only expose them. I looked at Rachel. I'll take option 2. Marissa exhaled sharply, like someone released from a noose. But, I added, turning back to her, you are going to write every word of that statement. You're going to repay every stolen dollar. And you're going to stay out of my life until you've figured out why you need to ruin mine. Her tears spilled. Mine didn't. Rachel drafted the agreement within the hour. Marissa signed with trembling hands. And when everything was finalized, she walked out of the office without looking back. I stayed behind. When I finally rejoined my parents, they were standing near the auditorium doors, confused and worried. Mom reached for me first. Sweetheart, what happened? Marissa ran out crying. She wouldn't speak to us. I held my diploma to my chest. Mom, I said gently, today wasn't about her. We took photos on the empty stage later. Just me, my parents, my degree, and a silence that felt like healing instead of loss. The revenge wasn't the exposure. It wasn't the evidence. It wasn't watching my sister unravel under the truth. The real revenge was something quieter. It was reclaiming my moment, my years of work, without letting her destroy what she could never earn. And when I walked out of the auditorium into the warm Charlotte sunlight, I realized something. Marissa didn't ruin my graduation. She revealed herself. And I finally walked away free. Moral lessons. This story is a reminder that silence is not weakness, and protecting your dignity is never something you should apologize for. Family can hurt you in ways strangers never could, but you still have the right to defend your peace, set boundaries, and rise above the chaos they try to drag you into. If you're going through something similar, Take a breath and remember this. Your worth isn't decided by the people who misunderstand you. It's proven by the courage you show when you finally stand up for yourself. Healing is slow, but it starts the moment you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misreading you. Keep going. You're stronger than the people who tried to break you, and your future is bigger than their expectations.